What's up guys, I'm Mitch with Stone Coat Epoxy. Today I'm going to show you two separate ways on how to use our Natural Earth Tones Epoxy Kit. What is the Natural Earth Tone Epoxy Kit? It's a kit containing special additives designed for our epoxy countertop system. We got our earth tone browns, blacks, and a couple whites. When combined, creates beautiful, natural looking epoxy countertops that'll go right over your existing surfaces, or in this instance, built fresh from brand new wood. Whenever applying more than 4 ounces per square foot, I like to apply a tape dam. I'll do a couple of rows around the entire perimeter of the countertop I'm working on. I'll make sure to tuck a row underneath that edge. It keeps that tape dam nice and secure and the epoxy in place as it thickens up and allows it to flow over really nicely once it's gelled up, giving you very beautiful high definition edges. How much do I need and how long do I mix? When going with an exotic pour, you're gonna go about 6 to 8 ounces per square foot of project. For your hand meld marble, it's a different technique. You're gonna go about 3 to 4 ounces per square foot. That's why I do not have a tape dam on my hand meld marble piece. Let's get to work. First step we're gonna do, I'm gonna start my exotic pour. I'm gonna mix up 7 ounces per square foot. I'll divide that up into separate mixing cups. I'll tint that with my base colors, gonna be more product, and then my accent colors, which will be smaller amounts of product. I'll pour that all into one big bucket, pour that out on my countertop, let it self-level, countertop will be complete. For the hand milled marble section, I'm gonna mix up about 3 to 4 ounces per square foot. I'll do the same steps. I'll divide that up into separate mixing cups, but instead of pouring that back into a large bucket, it's going right onto my project. I'm getting out my gloved hands, I'm hand melding. I'll use a magic trowel, a Bondo spreader. Guys, don't blink. This is gonna be an epic tutorial on how to use Stone Coat's Natural Tones Epoxy Kit. We're gonna pour in part B first, followed by part A at a 1-to-1 ratio. Mix for 2 minutes, and then we're ready to add the colors into the epoxy. All right, get a flat bottom paint stick, and we're gonna rub the sides. And we're gonna scrape the bottom. Very important to start out with a good mix, guys, and this is a key to success. Pick this up and mix for about another minute, and we're ready to add color. The bigger cups are gonna be my base colors, and the smaller cups are the accent. You could really change the look of an epoxy color kit by just modifying what color is your base and what color is your accent. If you want your countertop, your earth tone countertop to be a little more bright, use, larger amounts of the white mica and the white dye. That's gonna brighten up the whole project. About 1 to 2 tablespoons of metallic powder per 16 ounces of mixed epoxy. Little white dye and brown. This brown dye is one of my favorites. All right, just use a popsicle stick and mix until thoroughly incorporated. Now that the epoxy is mixed, it's in cups, I'm adding colors. I don't want to walk away and let all this sit. We're on the clock now, guys. The quicker you could get this on the countertop, the longer you have to work with the products. When I mix white, light colors, I'll stick to those same additives, and then you don't really need to change your mixing stick. Before making your exotic pour bucket, I'm gonna pour a little bit of my epoxy here on my board and create a wash coat. It really doesn't matter what colors are down, because all I'm looking for is a little bit of lubrication on my board so that exotic pour flows really nice. So just take a little extra epoxy and wet it down all over your project. And it can be very, very thin. Epoxy likes to go where epoxy has been. So when it's wetted down, it really helps that resin move and flow when you pour out that big exotic pour. All right, now that we have our wash coat down, we are ready to build our exotic pour bucket. I'm gonna take the tinted epoxy and randomly pour it into my bucket. Dark bronze, this is brown dye, a little white dye, white metallic, copper metallic, diamond dust. Pretty. Bronze. I'm gonna come scrape my buckets here, so I'm using every last bit of this material. There's really no wrong way to build an exotic pour bucket. What you don't wanna do though is stir it up. These dyes and metallic powders are now going to fight for first place when you go to pour this out onto your project, creating some really natural looking, realistic effects that you can't get anywhere else. If it's too dark, do your next one with more light colors. I like my countertops to look like Mother Nature made them, so oftentimes granite is striated. It's a stacked stone look. So I often give myself a little angled flow and go left or right, but there's any way you can do this. I've applied about 6 ounces per square foot, so I know this is gonna completely level out and cover my entire board. That's why I did that grease coat. That's gonna encourage that epoxy to flow nice and even. I'm gonna grab the rest of this material, kind of fill it in any real dry spots. Then we're gonna let this countertop do its thing. It's gonna sit here for about 2 hours since I mixed. Then we're gonna come back and peel this tape. To remove the air you've incorporated into the material, mixing and pouring and doing everything you did to make it look this awesome, we go to the propane torch. You can also use a heat gun, but the heat source is gonna break up the surface tension and bring all the air bubbles out of that epoxy, enabling that epoxy to cure glass smooth and rock hard and look beautiful. This product has already spread most of my board. I'm just gonna take what's left in my bucket here. There's a few epoxy techniques you can use at this point to take this exotic pour to the next level. 91% isopropyl. We'll add some lacing and selling to the project that you can't get anywhere else, or you can grab some accent epoxy and drizzle some fracture lines. I'm absolutely loving the way this looks. I'm gonna move on to my hand meld marble. I'll let this sit. I might grab that isopropyl after I've done my hand melt to really bring this to life, but I'm digging the way this looks. All right, I'm gonna mix up 3 ounces per square foot for my next piece. That's where I'm gonna do my hand meld marble. I'm gonna use my same mixing cups, show you technique 2, hand meld marble, don't blink, epoxy project 2, coming right up. I'm mixing a smaller amount of epoxy for this batch, and you can see it's turning white. That's because I'm incorporating more air with my paddle mixer. Do not fret, everything is good to go. You're just gonna use that blowtorch or heat gun, maybe a time or two more to ensure all the air is removed out of the epoxy. All right, it's time for the hand milled marble. It's the same process, except we're not going into the bucket. We're pouring out random amounts of color, hand melding, using a magic trowel, using a Bondo spreader, using a paint stick. It's really the dealer's choice. That's a cool thing about epoxy, guys. You don't need a giant investment in tools. Use your gloved hands. It's my favorite epoxy tool. All right, I'm gonna start with the base using my brown dye and using my bronze mica. So just pour that out kind of in random blobs. We're gonna combine these two on the board here to create a pretty cool base color. And you could start out by using your gloved hands, and I'm just gonna meld these two together and make any dry areas. And it doesn't really matter what this looks like at this point, guys. This is just your base colors. But this on its own is gonna make a cool color. Add a little bit of brown right there. Okay, look at that. All right, it's also good time right now to take your gloved sticky hand and hit those edges. So right now I'm just looking to make my edges wet. That way there's no dry spots. Where there's dry spots, the epoxy doesn't like to flow. So take time early on in your epoxy pour to make sure those edges are fully coated. We designed this product for you, the do-it-yourselfer, to fix your old worn-out countertop surfaces. My brother and I were in the countertop industry. We saw the many customers who were priced out of granite. So we came up with this, guys. We teach you step by step how to go over old existing worn out countertops or build scratch. And now that my base colors are down, guys, I'm gonna go back here to my accent colors. We got some copper. And now this is, again, dealer's choice. If you don't like the look of the copper in your counter, go to a different one. Don't use as much, just use a little bit. I'm gonna add a few random blobs here and we're gonna meld. That doesn't look random though, so I'm gonna go like this. There, now it's random. And again, just kinda, we're hand melding. It's a little too much copper, so what do? Come back to that base color. That's some brown. And we're gonna just meld that in. I like that. Blended it down some. I love the way that brown gets in there. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of this white mica now. Now, you saw how strong that other color went. Let's start little. Let's see what that white does, just right here. Isn't that pretty? Bam. Okay. I like the way that is, but you could see how quickly that can take over. So I'm just gonna keep that to little ribbons this time instead of those bigger blobs. Whoa, that was a bigger blob. It's okay. So you can grab some of that white and bring it over here. And the further you work away from that white, you know what I mean, it's gonna blend less. So it's a good way to kind of walk it over to areas that don't have much. Walk into this white at first, and I'm gonna bring that white over here. Tone it down that way. You don't wanna sit here and over meld the project either, guys. That's gonna create mud. Take time to remove the air you've incorporated in that resin. It'll start to meld and lay out for you. What the heck's white dye gonna do? I don't know, let's see. I'm gonna start small again. Same deal, I'm gonna use just the tips of my fingers here and meld that out. The white dye, ooh, blends completely different than the mica powders. And a combination between the two is really what brings these countertops to the next level. A little bit of that accent white, and then just start melding. I'm almost skipping too, as you can see. I'm applying different amounts of pressure, picking up the resin and walking at different spots. Come back into the white, walk it up here. With the hand melds, you really get to tell the epoxy where you want it to go, more so than you do with the exotic pour. Don't forget to kind of hit those edges, making sure they're staying covered in color. We got a little bit of diamond dust to add. Diamond dust can really do some cool stuff. Adds a sparkle and shine there that's so pretty. And when you meld it into the colors, it doesn't disappear like mini glitters. My board is fully coated. It's gonna lay out nice and pretty. And I'm gonna take a step back and look at the project as a whole and see what I don't like, what I like. I'm digging a lot of this swirling, but I think I want some more of that bronze mica. So I just come back, add a little bit more where I see fit. Now I think this needs a little diamond dust right there. I really like building veins like this though. You just add little strips of color at a time. Walk it out with your gloved hands. And then when we come back with some alcohol, oh boy, it comes to life. All right, grab some 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm gonna start off by spraying a nice little puddle in my hand, and then I'm gonna drop bigger drops on my project. You can add too much alcohol at one time. So give it a mist, let it evaporate out. You can always come back and hit it with a little bit more. But if I slam way too much on at once, it's gonna start to create mud as that alcohol gets into the epoxy at too much of a rate. You want that to evaporate out before spraying on some more. This looks fantastic. Guys, let's take a look at what it does to our exotic pour. And let me know in the comments below, do you like it before or after I mixed on the isopropyl alcohol? Here we go. You don't want to atomize the spray. You're wanting for bigger droplets. All right. And as the epoxy thickens, it's going to sell at a different rate. So sometimes you'll spray this alcohol on a little early. You'll come back and you'll lose most of the selling. That's because you sprayed it on just a hair too soon. At about the 20 to 40 minute mark is a crucial time to hit it with that alcohol. I'm not gonna touch this piece anymore. It's up to you to let me know in the comments below, which piece do you like best? The hand meld marble or the exotic pour? Let me know in the comments below. All right, I'm back. It's about an hour and 50 minutes since I initially mixed my exotic pour. Perfect time here in Oregon to peel that tape dam. Simple process, I just peel from the top down, work my way around the project, and then I'm gonna make any dry areas wet as that thickened epoxy makes its way over my edges. I wanna make sure that my edges are coated well with that thickened stringy epoxy, which it is. It's looking really, really good. You know you've timed it well when you have big, long strings like this, guys. Perfect timing on that tape dam. So after I let it drip a minute, I'll come back and really rub the epoxy into that bottom edge. It's gonna encapsulate that whole countertop, protect the bottom side, and minimize sanding. So I will stick around here for the next couple hours, and I'll scrape that after a good 2 hours from now. The epoxy's done, self-leveling, really thick, and I'll be able to smooth those bottom drips out so no sanding will be needed tomorrow. If this is a project I'm doing in my shop, I'm not really concerned with that. I'll let this drip away, I'll let it do its thing. I'll come back tomorrow, I'll apply my clear coat. After that drips, I'll let that cure, I'll come back the next day, flip it over, grind those drips off. I'm not concerned about dust. If it's in a customer's home, best case scenario, guys, scrape those drips off with a paint stick. All right, guys, the possibilities are truly endless. You just change the ratio of colors for whatever epoxy kit you pick, and that's gonna change the look of those countertops. You want it more dark, add more dark colors. You want it more light, keep those colors light. It's up to you guys. I hope you learned some tips and tricks. Thanks for watching from Stone Coat Countertops. Don't forget, you got this, and we'll see you on the next video.